You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Hello, Raider Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Believe in Raiders podcast presented by BetOnline. I'm Dennis Ackerman, co-host, joined by former Raider great Stanford Routt. Stan, how we doing?
Pretty good, man. Football is back in full force, so I'm always as happy as a clam right now. Can't wait.
And also joining us from the Believe in Cardinals podcast is Ed Smith. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you on and joining us.
My pleasure, man. Looking forward to chopping this one up.
Well, gentlemen, both teams, the Chiefs, the Raiders and the Cardinals, coming off week one losses. The Raiders, I didn't think played particularly well, but still had a chance to win it at the very end. So how would you assess their week one game against LA?
Well, obviously with all the moves that the Los Angeles Chargers have made over the offseason with them bringing Khalil Mack into the fold and obviously JC Jackson, and for this to be a game that was still relatively within striking distance. I'll go ahead and just leave it like that. I can't say that the Raiders played horrible. Obviously, I wish they would have played better. There's no doubt about that. But definitely a lot of room for improvement. Can't allow Khalil Mack to have 3 sacks against his former team. That's just one thing, to just go ahead and put it mildly. So definitely there's more I want to see out of the Raiders coming up going for the rest of the season.
And the Chiefs had their way with the Cardinals, something, hey, look, Raider fans are very familiar with when it comes to Kansas City. How would you assess Arizona's week one loss?
Man, that was they took us behind the shed, man. They laid it on us with no mercy. And kind of, I've been talking all offseason about how nonchalant we were. It was the noisiest offseason you can imagine, starting off way back after the Pro Bowl with Kyler Murray scrubbing social medias, and then the reattachment of it, and then all the contract talk. Then we come to find out DeAndre Hopkins was going to be out for 6. Yeah. We just had such a off-season of distraction. Then we get to training camp, and man, these guys decided they don't want to work. They just figure, hey, we got to the playoffs last year. Forget that beating we took, but we're just going to take it easy, and we'll get to the regular season. We'll turn it on. Somebody forgot to tell them to flip that switch this past Sunday, because they looked so unprepared. The speed of the game was too much for them. Didn't look like anybody was on the same page. And man, KC just had their way with us, man. And I'm fearful. This first few weeks of the season for us is going to be like preseason, because we got no work in. So that was an atrocity, the effort we put up this past Sunday.
Stanford Raider fans, I think all our fears about the offensive line came to fruition. I mean, they used 7 different O-linemen, allowed 6 sacks. I mean, how successful can the Raiders be going forward with all these question marks surrounding this offensive line?
Oh, I think they're just going to have to find different ways to go ahead and try to get the ball out fast, maybe even lean on the run game a little bit more. But to expect Derek Carr to drop back 5-step and 7-step drop, I don't think that's going to be something that's feasible, at least right now at this given moment, with what you just said, the state of the offensive line. And I think that Derek Carr, he's got to find a way to carry this load. He's got to find a way to be able to overcome, or should I say circumvent, the below average offensive line he has. He saw how on Sunday he had 3 INTs. That's something that simply just cannot happen, especially after he gets the big contract. He's now playing with his college roommate, college best friend, and a Devonte Adams, who had 141 receiving yards, mind you. But I think that with this offensive line being lackluster, with it simply being a position that they did not address in the offseason to the nth degree that they should have given that level of consideration and attention, they dug themselves in this hole, and they're going to have to go ahead and lean on their $40 million quarterback to dig them out of it.
Yeah, we don't even know if Andre James, his status for Sunday's up in the air. He left the game against LA with a concussion. I imagine Dylan Parham would likely start for him if he cannot go. Ed, Cardinals gave up 44 points. Your concerns with the defense, and can they muster up a pass rush against that Raiders offensive line, do you think?
Well, this might be that get right game for you guys as far as your offensive line. Primarily, we were hoping that J.J. Watt would be available to start the season. Obviously, he sat first week with the calf. Obviously, we're minus Chandler Jones. This front is totally different from what it was last year. And without an ability to put pressure on the quarterback, we saw last week with KC, Vance decided to throw the kitchen sink at Mahomes as far as all these blitzes. I can't remember the percentage of blitzes that they ran out there, but that was his solution for not having guys up front to get a push and maybe get a rush on Mahomes. And I kind of think it's going to be somewhat of the same thing this week. It's almost you have to decide, because we can't get a rush, do we throw the blitz at Carr, or do we sit back and what's that old saying, death by 1,000 cuts, you know? Yeah. And I'm kind of fearful that he's going to try to throw the kitchen sink out there again, and that's going to expose our secondary, which is so decimated. And this could be a field day for you guys. As far as your offensive line, I don't know if you have to single out anybody in terms of, you know, this is the guy we got to look out for, because honestly, we don't have the horses up front right now.
And even if J.J. Watt was healthy, can he still be an impact player at this point of his career?
Well, the biggest thing I'm scared about, Dennis, is he's already starting the season off with injury, and everybody knows his injury history over the last bunch of years.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, he played 0 snaps in preseason, along with getting COVID the week that they went over to Tennessee to try to get some work in, you know, those joint practices. So you got to think about it. He hasn't played a legitimate snap since last year sometime. So that calf, if it is bothering him enough to be out game 1, I'm scared. And Stanford, you know this, all it takes, man, is one slip, I meant to go this way, and all of a sudden that calf turns from day to day or week to week. We could be minus him for, 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, but I don't see much coming from him. The fact that he has not had an opportunity to get on the field at all to this point.
Dan, I want to go back to Derek Carr for a sec, if we could. Obviously, didn't play particularly well. He threw the 3 picks, as you mentioned earlier. He said he was just trying to be maybe too aggressive. I mean, do you agree with that, or did you see something else from Carr that you think is an easy correct moving forward?
I mean, I think that when you really go back and actually just look at the game or just think about exactly everything played out, he's got to be better at decision making. I think that's number one. I think also when you go and just look at the stats as far as the receivers for the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday afternoon, Devonte Adams, 10 catches, he had 17 targets. Darren Waller, 4 catches, 6 targets. And then it's a steep decline after that. Hunter Renfrow, 6 targets. He was next on the list, only had 3 catches for 21 yards. So he didn't make that much of an impact. And then Brandon Bolden out of the backfield, 2 catches, 21 yards. He had a touchdown on 2 targets. So to me, I think that teams are going to start to really key in on Derek Carr as far as who it appears that he's looking for the most. We know Darren Waller. We know Devonte Adams, obviously his top 2 targets, and Hunter Renfrow. But I think that his ability to be able to spread the ball around to the unsung heroes is going to behoove him. It's going to help him going down the line, because now whenever that defensive coordinator is looking to have the safety go ahead and help double on a Devonte Adams or help double on a Darren Waller, it's going to be less effective if Derek Carr is willing to go to his 3rd, 4th, 5th option, 6th option, even as far as those guys that the opposing team, the opposing defense is not going to be readily, abundantly aware of right now as far as leaning their coverage to that direction.
I have a question for both of you. And Stan, obviously defensive back in the NFL for 8 years. Ed, you played on the offensive side of the ball. Have you guys seen situations before where a quarterback just falls in love too much with one of his weapons? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And when you have, especially if you have a weapon like a Devonte Adams, you want to, and in all honesty, I think in the first week, and you might agree with this, Stanford, I think he wanted to showcase Devonte Adams.
Yeah. This 17 targets.
Yeah. I mean, this was, obviously their college teammates all would dreamed of playing with each other. This beautiful weapon you got. I think he went out of his way to focus on trying to get Devonte the ball this past week.
Yeah, and I think sometimes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I think sometimes it can be a detriment to the team when you try to focus on or when you try to feature a certain guy. Now, if it's all within the flow of the game, then that's one thing. But when you're actually making a concerted effort to try to feature somebody, I think that at times it could be to the detriment of the team. It could be to the detriment of the offense. I remember even in years past, several of my years in Oakland, and we would go against the Houston Texans and Andre Johnson, Hall of Fame receiver. We all know that, but that was the game plan is that we simply were going to either double Andre or put Nnamdi Asomugha over there, and we were going to force the other receivers. We're going to force the tight ends to beat us in the one-on-one coverage, and we're just simply going to take Andre out of the game. And that's what I'm fearful of right now with the Las Vegas Raiders, is that a team is going to sit up there and now double team Devonte Adams, take him out of the game, put their best corner over there, put the safety over the top, things like that. And now, okay, your second guy, your third guy, your fourth guy, are they going to be able to beat man coverage consistently down the field throughout the remainder of the game for you to be successful? And that right there remains to be seen. So, definitely what Ed is saying as far as seeing a quarterback get too fixated on his shiny new toy. Yeah, I've definitely seen that several times.
And has Kyler Murray been the same quarterback since he lost Hopkins?
Oh, that's a great question, Dennis. He has been, he's been himself. Let's just say that, which has not been the best of things here recently, especially, at the end of last year. We stumbled down the blocks after that 7-0 start, 10-2 at one point. I do think teams started to put game plans specifically together. Now, you always want to stop him as a weapon, but I thought they started to get more familiar with what we were doing and the ways to try to stop him. He's a short quarterback. There's no way to get around that. If you can have your defensive ends pressure upfield but contain and then get pressure straight up the middle of the field with your interior guys, he's not yet learned to step up in the pocket. Part of that is because he is so short, he still has a hard time seeing over the top of that. Then the other thing is he's got this spin move where he spins, he hits that eject button. The thing is, if he gets out of that pocket, you got trouble because he can create on the run. But if you keep him in there, he sometimes just drops like a bag of flour on the floor. You end up getting a sack. So, my radio partner and I, Javon, we always joke about the chuck and duck. He's got a bad habit when DeAndre is in the lineup. He knows where the vicinity of where DeAndre might be. So when that pressure's coming, and because he can't see downfield, a lot of times we call it the chuck and duck. And he's been saved so many times by DeAndre, but what happens is they end up giving him the credit like, oh my God, that was an amazing pass. Did you see that? He didn't even see that. He just threw it up. DeAndre Hopkins saved him. Now for these 6 games without D-Hop being there, we did not see a chuck and duck this week because there's no D-Hop out there. So where do we get that production down the field? And that's a scary thing. He is, the teams, like I said, they're going to focus on keeping him in that pocket. He's a much less effective quarterback when you do that.
Yeah, I think Dennis, I think the more pressing question, or should I say just the more relative question as far as what you just asked Ed, is Kyler Murray the same quarterback when the calendar hits November? And, because every year it seems like they come out really, really hot. Obviously, we know Kyler Murray being from Texas. We all know he's a stud quarterback as far as he's talented. We all know that. But just like what Ed said, it seems like teams start to develop that game plan. And for the past 2 years, Arizona has sputtered down the stretch once you get to the final 6-7 weeks of the season. And I think a lot of it has to do with everything that Ed just mentioned, as far as teams now finding that game plan. They're starting to figure you out, the blueprint. And then in the NFL, you already know the best football is played in November and December, as far as like that's when the real football is played to make that playoff push. So I think that for Arizona, for Kyler Murray especially, and a Cliff Kingsbury, they have to be able to find out what is going to be their counter punch, like a boxer in the boxing ring. You got to find that counter punch, because if you're just simply relying on that right hook and you go against somebody who's able to defend that right hook, now you're SOL.
And if you don't mind me just stamping what you said, Stanford, Cliff Kingsbury, he's done a poor job of making those adjustments. Like, and here I always tell people, and this, you have to make adjustments sometime from quarter to quarter, series to series. He gets all the way, he's gotten to the point where things have worked through 6 and 7 games. Well, let's just keep rolling that out there. Not making those adjustments from game to game, series to series. And that's why I think you see some in the second half, after you get a whole bunch of tape on this team and you start watching tendencies and everything, like it's so easy to defense. And then, like I said, like you said, you brought up what's your counterpunch. We have no counterpunch here in Arizona.
And I want to follow up on something because Stan and I talked about this on our podcast in the offseason. When they gave Kyler Murray, that extension, there was that clause in there that said he had to study so many hours at home, and it just blew up on the Cardinals. And they finally had to make a statement saying, we're taking this out of the contract. Did he get an extension because they were at the point where we don't have a better option? Do you feel?
I think it was out of fear, Dennis, because, everybody, you hear all the talking heads on all the networks. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, you've got no chance at all. So now all these teams, they get one or they get what they think is one. And well, God, we can't lose him. We have to do whatever is possible to appease him, because you can't just go out and find franchise quarterbacks growing on trees. When the reality is, everybody isn't a franchise quarterback just because you pay them $46 million a year.
Agreed.
I mean, now, and you know how it is now, Stanford. It's like this quarterback made this much last year, so the next guy's up. We got to pay him that plus some. It's like, where did it ever, I wish I worked in an industry. I guess we used to work in the industry, but I wish I now worked in an industry where, hey, all I got to do is reference, hey, that dude made this much last year, so I got to make that much. And, we're just throwing money at these quarterbacks out of fear, because you have to have a franchise quarterback. In my opinion, you have to have the right franchise quarterback. And I'll throw one last thing out there about Kyler. He is one of the most talented dudes I've ever seen. Now, obviously, he's height challenged. One of the most talented and dynamic football players I've ever seen. Biggest question about him is leadership. He has absolutely no leadership. And just because you give this dude money and just because he has all the ability in the world does not make him a leader. And that is his biggest flaw, if you ask me.
Okay, I want to ask you both a question, because obviously you both played in the NFL. But the quarterback as a leader, does he have to be a verbal leader, or can he lead by example?
You go with that one, Stanford?
You want me to go with that one first? Repeat the question back. I want to make sure that I hear it correctly so I can answer.
We know there's different kind of leaders, right? We all know that. Does your quarterback, if he's going to be the leader of your football team, does he have to lead just by example, or does he have to be a verbal leader? Which would you guys want?
I think you just kind of hit it right on the head. You just kind of answered your own question when you said, does he have to be a verbal leader? Does he have to be a rah-rah type of, does he have to be lead by example or be a verbal leader? You just started off by saying there's different types of leaders. So I think that that right there, he doesn't have to be. What do you think Derek Carr is, Stan? What do you think Derek Carr is? To me, I think Derek Carr is probably more of a lead by example type of leader. He doesn't really strike me as the rah type. Like, you remember how years ago, how you would always see Tom Brady in the huddle, how he would always headbutt his offensive lineman. Like, that's more of like a vibrant, obviously Tom Brady's a Leo, and I'm a Leo as well. So maybe it has to do with that alpha type of energy or something like that. But you just don't see that out of Derek Carr. You don't see Derek Carr just being kind of like a house cat, but you just don't see that type of bravado that Derek Carr brings to the table. So I would probably more so align him with, doesn't mean he's exactly like this guy, but I would align him more towards the Eli Manning end of the spectrum. And when I say that, Eli obviously wasn't vocal. Eli obviously many times he had a deer caught in headlights type of look, but Eli Manning also beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. So that's somebody who leads by example. He made the great throw to David Tyree in the first Super Bowl. He makes the throw on a dime to Mario Manningham in the second Super Bowl. So whenever you see certain guys that make plays like that, you have no choice but to go ahead and follow behind him, because it's like, whoa, did you see what that guy just did? He clearly knows what he's doing. He's clearly the leader of this team now. He may not be the rah vocal person, but he still has put forth enough on tape. He's put forth enough on this team to make me feel comfortable and following behind him. So I don't think that a quarterback needs to be, I don't think he needs to be one way. I don't think that you can only lead one way. I think you can lead a multitude of ways. You look at Aaron Rodgers. He's somebody that has, let's just say, drawn the ire of a lot of teammates, a lot of people within the media, because of how he goes about doing things. But Aaron Rodgers is a fantastic quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks ever played this game on the face of the planet. So just off of that alone, his talent is going to make you want to follow behind him because, playing with him, ask Devonte Adams, you're going to have a great career playing with him for a number of years, and you're going to make a lot of money too. So I think that there's a multitude of ways that you can be a leader. I don't think it's just one way. Dennis, I hope that answers the question.
No, it absolutely doesn't.
Derek Carr to me is more of a lead by example type.
Ed, before I get your answer, I got to make our sponsor happy. And let me get this read in real quick because I'm a little late with it. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and yes, even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Ed, what do you prefer? Do you want somebody leading by example, or do you want a rah-rah type of quarterback?
I'm right there with Stanford. What I'm thinking, what I know, the great ones and the good ones, they're a hybrid. They have a little bit of dog in them where they want to let everybody know they're the alpha in the room, but they also know I'd rather have guys watching what I'm doing and following me that way than me yelling down the hall trying to get them to run toward me. And those, I played with Chris Chandler, went to a Super Bowl with that dude, didn't have the most talent in the world, but I tell you this, man, the way he kind of, led our team, and even I had a relationship with him. We weren't like best of friends or anything like that, but he was a dude that I would run through a brick wall for, and not because he was rah-rah or this, because I felt what he was trying to do. And, the quiet guys, I think it's a balance. You can't have 0 and 100. You got to be somewhere on the scale of, if you are a quiet dude, give me at least 30% of, conversation and, that type of thing. You can't be at 0. And if you're one of those dudes, because I'm, we all know there's the Russell Wilsons and stuff like that. I don't want fake leadership. I want somebody that when they're talking, I know they're talking, they're trying to be about it. I'm not necessarily just looking for that rah-rah stuff. So I do think they're, and the biggest question that we sometimes have on our show is, can you teach leadership? And that's a tricky thing. Can you teach it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you teach it? Isn't it something that's born in you? You either have it or you don't.
I think that you can teach it, but it's never going to be authentic. Like you can teach it, and you can teach somebody to be a leader, but it's going to be, it's not going to be authentic. It's going to be more on the side of, let's just go ahead and call it synthetic. We'll just call it that. And as a player, hell, even as a coach, just as a member of the team, you can always tell when it's authentic, and you can always tell when it's synthetic. So I think that for me, I want my quarterback to be whoever he is. If you're a rah-rah guy, be a rah-rah guy. If you're somebody that leads by example, be that. And I think that at the end of the day, players are going to rally behind whoever they see putting in the work and making plays on Sundays. At the end of the day, you can be a rah-rah guy, and a lot of people are going to be turned off by you if that does not translate into you playing well on Sundays. You're making mental errors, you're throwing interceptions, and nobody's going to follow behind you if you're a rah-rah guy. And if you could somebody who simply is just leading by example, you don't say 2 words the entire week, but yet every time somebody looks over at you, you're studying. You're working hard. You're making plays. You're not missing assignments. You're not showing up late to anything like that. Guys will pay attention to that, and they'll rally behind you. So I just want my quarterback to be whoever he really is. That's all I want, because you can sniff it out like it's dirty socks. You can sniff it out when somebody is not being authentic and they're not being themselves.
And I want to get back to the Raiders defense. They didn't record a sack against Justin Herbert. Denzel Perryman could be out. Trayvon Merrick might miss the game. We know that Anthony Averett, we've lost him for a few weeks with a broken thumb. How do they create that pressure? How do they create more pressure and try to get to Kyler Murray this Sunday?
Oh, obviously they're going to have to bring in more people. They're going to have to blitz. They're going to have to try to go ahead and get exotic. They're going to have to maybe bring a corner off the edge, things like that. Because just like what I was telling you guys, or just like what I was telling you, Dennis, coming into this season, I told you it's going to come down to Max Crosby. It's going to come down to Chandler Jones playing at an all-pro level, I believe, to augment, to go ahead and try to supplement that back end, or should I say they're not addressing the back end to the level that I felt like they should have. And obviously no sacks on Sunday afternoon against the Chargers. That's something you can ill afford to have happen whenever you do not have the type of secondary, the potency within the secondary that one would imagine, or one would definitely highly covet. So they're going to have to find a way to get to Kyler Murray this week, blitzing, bringing extra people, pressure, things like that. I mean, hey, we all can see that Kyler Murray doesn't watch as much film as he should. So maybe we can go ahead and confuse him with a few fire zone blitzes, things like that.
And how big of a loss was Chandler Jones for the Cardinals?
He was huge. He absolutely was. And this is going to be one of those get back games for him. You know, he spent a few years here, I think 3 Pro Bowls, did everything you would want from a guy leading your defense. And, you know, I don't think he ever got the respect from management in this organization that he deserved. And when the time came, you know, he went on his way. And I'm pretty sure when the schedule came out, because I've been there a couple times myself, Stanford, you circle a couple games on the calendar, and you're like, hey, I can't wait for this one. And I'm guaranteeing he can't wait for this one. And real quick, man, I tell you, our offensive line might turn into a turnstile for you guys. This might be the get right game for you guys up front, because of the fact we have not, like I said, our offensive line, just a mass of guys anyway. They haven't worked together all off season, none in the preseason. I think one of the players, even during the post game last week, mentioned that, hey, you know, we're all just kind of figuring it out there, because now it's like the first time we played against, you know, with each other. So that doesn't bode well for our offensive line. I'm thinking it's not going to be as difficult. I think what might happen, you might come out with a plan to blitz us, and you might find out you don't even have to do all that, because KC did not do a whole lot of exotic stuff, and they still contain Kyler, and they stuffed. If we don't come out there and at least make an attempt to run the ball, that's going to be game over as far as I'm concerned from the very beginning. But this offensive line might surprise you. I don't know if maybe you've been looking at the wrong tape. They might not be as good as you think they are.
Is the offensive line the one group where when you have a bunch of new faces, it's the toughest to get continuity?
In my opinion, yeah. And as a tight end working with those guys, oh my God. I mean, the good ones, I've been with a couple of offensive lines. They eat together. They go out together. They study together. Fridays, they, all gather. The day before, they're sitting in the corner eating donuts together. I mean, these guys get so familiar with each other, and they can literally, they know when the other dude, say somebody else on the offensive line, if he's not feeling well, they all don't feel well, because they're that in tune with each other. And that is, Dennis, that is the one unit, in my opinion, that they have to, it's like a glove. All 5 of them they have a space, 4 fingers and a thumb. Those guys have to be in tune, and they need work to do that. And I just, that's the one unit. Actually, you can throw defensive lines in and out. You obviously got linebackers, DBs. There's a reason why you don't shuffle in offensive linemen if you can help it.
All right, let's do a little over-under, guys. Stan, I want to start with you. Derek Carr, 2 touchdown passes on Sunday. Over-under.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to go ahead and think with my heart, and I'm going to say the over.
All right. I'm going to go under. I think they're going to get the running game going, and I think he's going to have a lot of yards, but I think he's going to go under. Ed, what are you thinking?
I say over. I think he'll get Adams involved, obviously Waller involved, and Renfro might even sneak one in himself.
Stan, Derek Carr, 300 yards passing. Over or under for Derek?
I'm going to go with the over. I think he's going to have a big day as far as passing yards. Like I said, maybe the whole thing with the touchdowns may not come to fruition, but I feel like he's going to have a good day passing yards statistically.
Ed?
I'm right there at the 300-yard mark too, Dennis.
Yeah, I think that's a give or take right around in that neighborhood. All right, let's go to the other side now. Kyler Murray. I know he struggled against the Chiefs. Ed, I'll start with you. 250 yards over under.
250 and some change. Let's put it that way. But the caveat is a lot of it might be in some garbage time late.
Stan?
Oh, we're talking about 250 yards, total yards or passing?
Passing yards.
Man, I still don't all the way believe in this secondary, so I would go with the over.
All right.
Reluctantly, I would go with the over.
I hear you. I think that with the injuries, possibly with Merrick and possibly no Everett, or definitely no Everett. I think I'm going over also. How about 2 touchdowns, Ed? Over under for Kyler Murray?
I think he does. I mean, because I don't think we're going to be able to run the ball much. We'll abandon it quickly, and that'll be the only way they get in the offense is in the air with the touchdown or 2.
Stan?
2 touchdowns in the air for Kyler Murray?
Yep.
Let's go with the under. Let's go with the under on that one, just to go ahead and kind of, switch it up a little bit. Let's go with the under.
All right. Chandler Jones did not have a sack in the first game, but what's the 2? I'm going to go over under. Ed, I'm going to start with you. 2 over under.
I got to go. Hey, can I push? I'll go 2 because I'm going to push him now. He's going to get at least a couple.
Stan?
I would go with the under. I'd go with the under. I think he's definitely going to get to the quarterback, but Kyler Murray, obviously elusive runner, really, really good passer. We all know that. Doesn't watch film as much as he should, but definitely still a stud quarterback. Chandler Jones, I see the under. I'll give him 1, maybe 1.5, but I see the under.
Yeah, I like that also. 1 to 1.5. Agree. Stan, I'm going to start with you. The Raiders O-line allows 3 sacks over under. 6 last week. But again, it's against a very good pass rush with the Chargers.
Exactly. I think that this week, I think that they're going to have one of those bounce back type of games. Not to say they're going to play like world beaters on the offensive line. I would go with the under, but they're definitely going to find a way to get to Derek Carr. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but Derek Carr, in my estimation, is going to be hitting the turf at least once or twice this Sunday.
Ed?
We did not record a sack last week, so I'm going to go with the under as far as the 3. We might trip into a couple, but I don't know if we have enough people to pressure Carr enough to really threaten him.
I've seen this Raider offensive line. I'm going to go push like you did on one earlier, Ed. I'm going to go push. I think it's 3. And my last one, Stan, Devonte Adams, 10 receptions last week. How about over under 8 this week?
Oh, I'm going to say under. Say under. Anything is possible. I don't see him having another day as far as like he did last Sunday with the number of receptions. I think he's still going to make his plays. There's no doubt about that. But as far as 8 receptions, I mean, if you really, really think about it, 8 catches is a lot.
It is.
Like that means, you're putting in a really, really great day's work. I just see Derek Carr hopefully spreading the ball around a little bit more, maybe getting it to Renfro a little bit, things like that. Darren Waller. I see Devonte Adams having a good day, but not 8 receptions. I still see him getting his yards, making his plays, just not on 8 catches.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be less than, and I think hopefully, like you said, I think Derek's going to hopefully spread the ball around. Ed, what do you think of that Cardinal defense?
I think less than 8, but I think the yardage, run after catch and stuff like that, he might have 6 or 7 for like 130 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts. Thoughts. Exactly.
All right. Finally, let's get a prediction, and I'm going to start with our guest. Ed, give me a score prediction on this one.
Oh, let me look it up because I have mine ready for this weekend. I have the Oakland Raiders. Oh,
you can say Oakland. I'm fine with that.
Las Vegas Raiders winning this one, and I have, oh my goodness, I had it somewhere down here, 34-20.
All right. Stan?
Yeah.
Ooh, I would go, let's go Las Vegas Raiders, 28, Arizona Cardinals, 21.
All right. I think the Raiders win. I'm going to go 30-20. I think both teams are going to put up some points, and the Raiders win. And I think the Raiders cover. The spread is 5.5, and I think the Raiders win, and they cover as well. Hey, Ed, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime, gentlemen. Look forward to chopping it up with you again soon, man. And good luck with everything. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.
Stan, before we end, what game you calling this weekend?
Oh, wow. This weekend, going to be doing Arkansas and Missouri State.
All right. Hope you have a lot of fun. All right, Raider Nation, that's going to do it for another edition of the Believe in Raiders podcast presented by BetOnline. For my partner, Stanford Routt, and our guest, Ed Smith, I'm Dennis Ackerman, and may all your punts find the coffin corner.